There are stories hidden in history that are more terrifying than any horror novel, darker than any nightmare, and more mysterious than the deepest legend. Tonight, we will open one of those stories. Imagine this. In the heart of Europe, in the middle of the 20th century, an empire rose that declared itself destined to last 1,000 years. Its armies marched across the continent. Its banners carried strange symbols that seemed to glow with an eerie ancient power. But behind the speeches, behind the uniforms, and behind the iron discipline, there was something else, something darker, something that does not belong to the ordinary world of politics and war. The Nazi regime, under Adolf Hitler, was not only a political and military power, it was also a cult obsessed with ancient myths, with symbols, with forbidden rituals, with the dream of awakening something that should have remained hidden. Yes, you heard that right. Behind the war that we think of as tanks, planes, and soldiers, there was another war, a war for ancient relics, mystical knowledge, and the power of the unseen. The world remembers Hitler as a dictator, a tyrant, a man responsible for the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. But few know that Hitler surrounded himself with mystics, astrologers, and occultists. Few know that he believed his destiny was connected to ancient artifacts, that he sent expeditions to the far corners of the earth in search of the lost wisdom of Atlantis and the hidden kingdom of Shambhala. Few know that secret rituals were performed inside the stone walls of Wewelsburg Castle, rituals meant to turn men into demigods, into priests of a new dark religion. And here lies the question that chills the blood. What if Hitler's power did not only come from armies and propaganda? What if, in his desperate obsession with myths and relics, he touched something real, something dangerous, something beyond explanation? Historians often dismiss these stories as fantasy, as exaggeration, as propaganda. But the documents remain. The ruins of the SS temples remain. The testimonies of witnesses remain. And the feeling, the sense of a shadow moving behind the pages of history remains too. Tonight, we will dive into this shadow. We will explore the occult secrets of the Third Reich, the myths they believed, the relics they hunted, the rituals they performed, and the mysteries that still cannot be explained. We will walk through the frozen corridors of Wewelsburg, the Black Castle of the SS. We will follow Nazi expeditions to Tibet, where they sought the wisdom of hidden masters. We will uncover the story of the Spear of Destiny, the ancient weapon that, they believed, gave Hitler his power. And we will face the question, did these men truly uncover a hidden force, or did they simply awaken the darkest corners of their own souls? But be warned, once you enter this story, you will not look at history the same way again. The past may be gone, but the shadows it left behind are still with us. And sometimes, when we stare into those shadows, it feels as if they are staring back. So stay with me until the end. What you're about to hear is not just history. It is a journey into the forbidden, into the mysterious, into the terrifying heart of a regime that sought not only to rule the world, but to control destiny itself. Welcome to the Forgotten Archives. When we speak of Hitler and his closest circle, we usually think of generals, ministers, and propaganda masters. Yet hidden in the shadows of his regime stood a different kind of figure: mystics, dreamers, seekers of forbidden wisdom. To truly understand the occult side of the Third Reich, we must start long before the war, in the secret lodges and societies of Germany at the dawn of the 20th century. In 1918, as Germany lay in ruins after World War I, a secret group of men gathered in Munich. They called themselves the Thule Society. Outwardly, they claimed to be a nationalist organization, but behind closed doors, their goals were far stranger. They believed in the myth of Hyperborea, a lost northern homeland, an ancient civilization from which the Aryan race had descended. The members of Thule practiced rituals, drew runes, and whispered about contacts with hidden masters, beings of immense power who lived in remote corners of the world or even on other planes of existence. They believed that the destiny of Germany was not just political, but mystical. It was here, in this society, that the roots of Hitler's ideology took shape. Several of his earliest supporters were connected to Thule. Some say Hitler himself attended meetings. others that he absorbed their myths secondhand. What is certain is that the obsession with race, with symbols, with destiny, came from here. If Hitler was the face of the regime, then Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, was its priest. Himmler was no ordinary bureaucrat. He was a man consumed by visions of ancient Germanic glory, of lost worlds and magical bloodlines. He built the SS not only as a military force, but as a kind of knightly order, a new religion disguised in black uniforms. The runes on their collars were not just decorations. They were ancient symbols believed to hold power. The swastika itself was lifted from old Indo-European traditions, transformed into the beating heart of Nazi mythology. Himmler's most terrifying creation was Wewelsburg Castle, a fortress in Westphalia that he reshaped into the spiritual center of the SS. Its halls were redesigned with runic symbols, its chambers prepared for secret ceremonies. In the center was the Hall of the Black Sun, a circular chamber where 12 SS officers would gather like apostles around a dark altar. Witnesses claim that rituals were held here, initiations, ceremonies invoking ancient gods, attempts to contact unseen forces. Some say Himmler believed he could tap into the blood of the ancestors to awaken powers long dormant in the German people. Wewelsburg was to become the Camelot of a new dark religion, with the SS as its knights. And Himmler, his high priest, dreamed of building a new mythology that would last for 1,000 years. But mythology alone was not enough. To make their vision real, the Nazis created an organization unlike any other, the Ahnenerbe, the Ancestral Heritage Society. Founded in 1935, its mission was to prove, through research, the superiority of the Aryan race. But in reality, it became an agency of occult exploration. Scholars, adventurers, and pseudoscientists were sent across the globe in search of relics, manuscripts, and traces of lost civilizations. They went to the Himalayas, where they sought the fabled kingdom of Shambhala. They explored Tibet, measuring skulls and recording rituals, convinced they would find evidence of ancient Aryan masters who had once ruled the world. They searched for Atlantis, believing it to be the cradle of the Aryan race. They studied runes, folk tales, and pagan rituals. Some expeditions looked for the Holy Grail itself, imagining it not as a Christian relic, but as a vessel of cosmic energy. The Ahnenerbe blurred the line between archaeology and sorcery. They were not merely scientists. They were treasure hunters in a world of myth, chasing shadows across deserts, mountains, and oceans. Among the relics that obsessed Hitler, none was more feared and more desired than the Spear of Destiny. Legend said this was the spear used by the Roman centurion Longinus to pierce the side of Christ on the cross. For centuries, it was believed that whoever possessed the spear would control the fate of the world. Hitler first saw the spear in Vienna, long before he rose to power. He was a poor, struggling artist then, wandering through museums. But when he gazed upon the relic, witnesses said he froze, transfixed, as if something passed between him and the ancient weapon. Later, Hitler would claim that in that moment, he felt his destiny awaken. When the Nazis annexed Austria, one of Hitler's first acts was to seize the spear and bring it to Nuremberg. There, under heavy guard, it was placed in a vault. Some whispered that the victories of the early war, the swift conquest of Poland, the fall of France, were not only the result of armies, but of the spear's terrible power. But just as the legends promised power, they also warned of doom. The one who lost the spear would also lose his life. And so it was. In 1945, as the Allies closed in, the spear was captured in Nuremberg. Within hours, Hitler was dead in his bunker in Berlin. Coincidence? Or did the relic's curse claim its final victim? Perhaps the strangest of all Nazi expeditions was the search for Shambhala, the legendary hidden kingdom in the Himalayas. Tibetan monks had long spoken of it as a place of wisdom, a realm hidden from the world, where enlightened beings preserve the secrets of the universe. In 1938, a Nazi expedition led by Ernst Schaeffer set out to Tibet. Officially, it was for scientific study. But behind the official story was something far stranger. The Ahnenerbe hoped to find evidence that Shambhala was real, and that its masters could be contacted. In Lhasa, they measured skulls, studied ancient texts, and questioned monks. Rumors spread of secret meetings in hidden monasteries, of gifts exchanged, of knowledge shared in whispers. When the expedition returned to Germany, they brought not only artifacts, but also something far more mysterious. Some claimed they brought Tibetan monks with them, monks who later died in Berlin as the city burned in 1945. Their bodies, found in SS uniforms, only deepened the mystery. Had the Nazis really touched Shambhala? Or was it all a desperate illusion? To this day, the records remain unclear, and the truth is buried in the snow of the Himalayas. So, what are we to make of all this? Were the Nazis true sorcerers, wielding powers from beyond? Or were they deluded men, lost in their own fantasies, seeking in myth what they could not find in reality? The truth may lie somewhere in between. Symbols do have power. Belief can shape destiny. And when an entire regime believed it was guided by fate, by destiny, by unseen forces, that belief itself became a weapon. But then there are the stories, the whispers, the things that cannot be explained, the relics, the rituals, the ruins of Wewelsburg, the deaths that coincided too perfectly, the shadows that linger still. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is this: whether or not they truly tapped into supernatural forces, the Nazis acted as if they did. And in doing so, they unleashed horrors that still scare the world today. As the war dragged on, the obsession with the occult only deepened. Himmler pushed his researchers to go further, to search not only for relics of the past, but also for weapons of the future. Strange experiments began in secret laboratories, where science blurred into sorcery. There were attempts to harness vril energy, a supposed cosmic force described in esoteric books of the 19th century. Some believed this energy could power new aircraft, weapons beyond imagination, even gateways to other worlds. Engineers spoke of flying discs, strange prototypes that seemed more like legends than machines of metal. At the same time, whispers spread of occult rituals performed in the darkest days of the war. SS officers gathering in ruined castles, chanting by torchlight, calling upon ancient gods of blood and iron to grant victory. Were these desperate acts of madness or attempts to channel powers beyond human genuine understanding? We may never know. In 1945, as Berlin fell, many of the most secret archives of the Ahnenerbe were burned. Witnesses claimed that crates of relics, ancient manuscripts, and even bodies, strange, unidentified bodies, were destroyed before the Allies could seize them. Some were hidden, spirited away into the mountains, perhaps waiting still in forgotten bunkers. And yet, fragments survived. A few files, a few testimonies, enough to remind us that these men truly believed in the powers they sought. Enough to show us that the boundary between myth and reality is never as clear as we imagine. The Allies, too, were fascinated. The Americans seized not only scientists, but also occult materials. Operation Paperclip brought Nazi researchers into the United States, where they helped shape rocket science, medicine, and more. But what about the darker projects, the forbidden research? Were they too carried across the ocean, hidden in vaults, studied in silence? The Soviets equally seized their share of secrets. Some say that deep within Moscow, in hidden archives, lie documents from the Ahnenerbe that have never been released. Relics locked away, too dangerous for the world to see. The war ended, but the shadow of Nazi mysticism did not fade. To this day, conspiracy theories abound. Secret bases in Antarctica, hidden technologies, occult rituals that never truly stopped. Perhaps they are only legends, or perhaps, like the ruins of Wewelsburg, they remain silent, waiting, watching. And so we arrive at the end of our journey into the darkest chambers of history. We have walked the halls of Wewelsburg, where black flames once flickered in stone circles. We have followed the expeditions of the Ahnenerbe, chasing phantoms across the Himalayas and deserts. We have stood in the shadow of the Spear of Destiny, the relic that promised both power and death. But the truth, as always, slips through our fingers. Were the Nazis true sorcerers, wielding powers from realms beyond? Or were they desperate men clinging to myths in their lust for domination? Perhaps the answer is not important. Perhaps what matters is that they believed. And in that belief, they forged a reality of horror that scarred the entire world. Belief can be as powerful as any sword, any spell, any machine. When entire nations are convinced that destiny is on their side, the consequences are catastrophic. And maybe, just maybe, the shadows of these myths still linger. The ruins of Wewelsburg still stand. The Spear of Destiny still exists, guarded in Vienna. The archives of the Ahnenerbe still lie hidden, unopened. Are they harmless relics of the past? Or doors that should never be opened again? History has a way of bearing its darkest truths, but sometimes in quiet whispers, in forgotten documents, in the silent stones of ruined castles, the past calls out to us. Not to frighten, but to remind us of how easily myth can become a weapon, how quickly dreams can turn to nightmares. And now, dear traveler, it is your choice. You have followed us into the abyss of forbidden history, into the shadows where fact and myth intertwine. If you wish to keep walking with us, into other mysteries, into other forgotten stories, then join our journey. Subscribe to our channel, Forgotten Archives. Leave a like if you felt the chill of history's darker side, and write in the comments, what do you believe? Were the Nazis truly wielding powers beyond this world, or were they prisoners of their own delusions? Your thoughts will keep this fire alive. Your voice will guide us into the next chapter of the unknown, because this story is only one among many, and beyond it, there are countless others waiting in the dark, waiting to be told.